This now, let's bring in Democratic Senator Jeanne Shaheen of New Hampshire. She's a ranking member of the Foreign Relations Committee, the senior member of the Armed Services Committee. The senator led a bipartisan group of lawmakers to Kyiv back in February and continues to push for sustained congressional support for Ukraine. And Senator, you have been a stalwart for the people of Ukraine and for their sovereignty against this attack from Russia. Tell me, what does President Trump need to get out of this first meeting and ultimately out of Vladimir Putin for this summit and this ceasefire, if it does in fact ever materialize, for it to be a success in your mind?
Well, as you all have said so well, the president has sent very mixed messages about the war in Ukraine, about how tough he's going to be on Vladimir Putin. His track record is not good. I think if the president doesn't act, if we don't see a ceasefire coming out of this summit, then Congress needs to act, and Congress will act. There is strong bipartisan support for the Graham-Blumenthal bill to put in massive sanctions on those people who are helping Russia run its war machine on China. The president did put sanctions on India in a way that was positive, but so far he's put no new sanctions on Russia. He's done nothing against China, which is really allowing Russia to operate its war machine. So we need to see something positive come out of the summit.
So tell me, we've been talking about it this morning. Talk about the history of American presidents being duped by Vladimir Putin. George W. Bush saying that he looked into his eyes, saw his soul. And a few years later, we had the invasion of Georgia. And then the same thing happened with Barack Obama talking about a reset and being caught on a hot mic whispering to Medvedev, hey, we can do a lot more after the election. Well, after the election, Vladimir Putin, of course, invaded Ukraine, took Crimea, and then, of course, President Trump's Helsinki summit. What is it about Vladimir Putin that seems to get the best of Republicans and Democrats alike, and how do we break that cycle in 2025?
Well, Vladimir Putin is a former KGB agent. He is trained and skilled in manipulating people, and that's what he does consistently. And why our presidents don't understand that is beyond me. What Vladimir Putin understands is strength and pressure, and that's what we need to be doing in Ukraine. We need to provide the Ukrainians with more weapons and more support, and we need to put sanctions on Russia and on those countries that are allowing Russia to continue this unprovoked war.
Senator, what would be, in your case, in your opinion, being that you've been such a staunch supporter of Ukraine and Mr. President Zelensky, what would be a line that you would not want to see President Trump cross? Obviously, there's going to be some kind of negotiation. They've announced a joint press conference, so it doesn't look like they think they'll be at each other's throats. What would be a bridge too far for you as a senator that has supported Ukraine that would make you just outright say that Putin has won again?
Well, I think the information coming out of the call with European leaders and President Zelensky yesterday, where they indicated that there were going to be, that President Trump had agreed that no decision should be made about the outcome of this war without Ukraine at the table, and where he seemed to agree that there should be no agreement around any land swaps as part of the discussions in Alaska. I thought those were positive. I think anything that's different than that is very bad news, not just for Ukraine and for Europe, but for America. You know, this president said he was going to end this war on day one. Now we are 7 months into his administration. He has put in one red line after another. Vladimir Putin continues to cross those red lines, and it's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment for the United States and an embarrassment for Donald Trump. He needs to get some people who understand diplomacy around him, who are going to join him in Alaska, so that we're not seeing this one-off kind of diplomacy that gets us nowhere and does nothing for the United States, nothing for Ukraine, and nothing for the free world.
All right, Senator Jeanne Shaheen of New Hampshire, thank you so much for being with us. We greatly appreciate it. Simone, there does seem to be, there's one of the few issues where there seems to be bipartisan agreement on what needs to be done, that there has to be a tough line taken against Vladimir Putin. And something that I keep hearing from senators, both Republicans and Democrats alike, is if you think you get peace by appeasing Vladimir Putin, all you actually do is ensure that you'll get more war, not only from Putin, but also from China, that President Xi is watching very closely. And if we do the wrong thing here, Taiwan then is in grave danger of being invaded by the communist Chinese. Talk about all that is on the line with this summit.
I mean, absolutely, China is watching. President Xi has had his eye on Taiwan, but also Europe is watching, which is why I think there was such a strong reaction from European leadership this week. And I mean, Lemir's own reporting talks about how the European leaders were essentially pleading with begging President Trump and his advisors not to capitulate to Vladimir Putin, because Europe is on the line. Look, I think one thing, and you said this earlier in the show today, Joe, Vladimir Putin has been wildly consistent. And one of the things that he has been consistent on is that he doesn't believe Ukraine should exist. He would like to revive the old Soviet Union and go back to those lines of his country. So that means the Baltic states are at risk if he does not stop in Ukraine. The rest of Europe many parts of Europe are at risk if he does not stop in Ukraine. So there is a lot, if you will, on the line here. I will just note, lots of American presidents have been duped by Vladimir Putin. I would argue that the Biden administration learned from those. And when the world did not believe that Putin was going to invade Ukraine, they were skeptical. It was the Biden administration that declassified intelligence and shared it with the world, shared it with their European allies. And it was Vice President Harris that went to the huge security summit that happens in Europe, told President Zelensky this is going to happen. And even then he didn't believe her. So I do think that it is important that the world understand that Vladimir Putin's not changing his tune. And I think Donald Trump has to understand that he's not changing his tune. So what exactly is the strategy?
Yeah, it should be noted, President Biden, an American president not hoodwinked by Vladimir Putin. And certainly, though, there is a lot of concern in Europe that Putin, if he offers some sort of deal, says, look, I'll stop this fighting, but he demands things that Ukraine can't agree to, a lack of security guarantees, surrendering territory, not getting anything in exchange. And Zelensky says no. Will that then turn Trump against Zelensky again? That is one of the major storylines we, of course, will be following tomorrow when that summit occurs in Alaska.